的人在入侵我们的信号，可以先把信仰放在隔一边。哎，整个界面变了耶！整个界面都大改变了耶。别碰橘黄色，橘黄色是什么？我看一下哦。这一个沸腾之水跟游乐船。啊！现在只剩下它了，珍妮还在。这边为什么会有这3个啊？这几个选项是什么？是可以选哦，可以放那个罐头音效。早安，早安。它可以放罐头音效。
Oh, great. So they get the brains and we get the performing monkey.
我想去上厕所，让我暂停一下。哎呦，回来了。
You sound just like him, you know.
How are you?
It is what it is.
我觉得珍妮是不是喜欢那个男的、啊？感觉蛮像的。
I miss him too, you know.
对啊，他们两个现在都在想他。
10 seconds, everybody. Going in 5.
他好难过、哦，珍妮是喜欢他的。
Good evening. This is the National Nightly News. I'm Megan Wolf. It's the 140th day of war.
哦，他们在打仗了。
Company of heroes. Skirmishes on land and sea again today as our armed forces tested the mettle of the World Council's illegal blockade. Advance's strategy of multiple small-scale incursions into the disputed zone is certainly keeping the enemy on high alert, unable to work out where or when the next strike will come. Sadly, however, more casualties were reported today, and as the weeks and months of this war make ever more demands on our armed services, those numbers will tragically only continue. Don't starve. Advance's food program moved from strength to strength today as rationing depots were opened in the last remaining unfed areas of the territory. The rationing depots have been constructed in record time, and the government's agricultural strategy has seen shelves restocked with increasing regularity. However, with the reported rise in mental and physical health issues since the imposition of the blockade, critics have questioned whether those smaller communities which are only now starting to receive help could have been better and quicker served. 7 days to die. The recent decision to allow those with long-term health conditions to access transition centers has today been declared an overwhelming success. Previously available only to those in their final years, the expansion of the service has been recommended by the many organizations calling for it to be opened up to the wider community.
我就偏不要哦。
With dwindling medical supplies,
反正我们都已经走这条路了，还会更糟吗？
It can come as no surprise that the transition centers have found themselves stretched to capacity. Populace. More than 11% of the population have thus far failed to register for a tier membership card. A worrying statistic, given that the cards are a legal requirement from midnight. While applications are still open for those who like to run fashionably late, they can expect a few tricky questions from Advance. Start me up. Disrupt spokesman Alan James held an impromptu rally today in the northern city of Mankipool. Large crowds gathered to hear the band speaker prove Disrupt are still able to capture the public's imagination. A representative from the cohesion team
哭了，我们应该要选另一个的。这人真的不多哎，我应该选另一个很激昂的，可恶。
Absent friends. Sad news today as the grave of former National Nightly News host Jeremy Donaldson is vandalised by radical Disrupt activists. The much-loved broadcaster suffered a very tragic public breakdown 10 weeks ago in an incident which ultimately cost him his life. Disrupt spokesman Alan James, whose organisation last week named Mr. Donaldson as the cause's first martyr, described the graffiti as
1944到1985。哦，对，我们那个年代还是在没有到很先进。
But first this evening, with the war about to enter its 21st punishing week and people hurting up and down the country, I'll be grilling unpredictable Prime Minister Peter Clement in an exclusive
感觉这个片头会变哦。
in Lancashire. That's coming up on tonight's National Nightly News.
啊，变这样了，因为在打仗吧。啊，怎么那个还在酗酒啊？你有没有看到？他还在酗酒啊？到底要酗多久？有了。
In part 2, I'm a little overexcited to announce I'll be interviewing the one and only Lil C. And later we've got a new feature that's sure to keep you coming back for more. But first tonight, let's check in with Prime Minister Peter Clement.
首相，你还好吗？你怎么笑成这样？
Good evening, Prime Minister. Have we caught you exercising?
Oh, have we started?
好强哦！你最好健身喝酒啦。
As my old mum used to say, just because she won't take it up the shit, it doesn't mean you shouldn't.
哦，又骂脏话。这首相真的是。
Language, Prime Minister.
What? Quick fiddle? What's wrong? Oh, shitter. It's shitter, isn't it?
不要再骂脏话啦！
Can you tell us what brought about this new year?
Well, you know, Mrs.
睡啦！
You know, the night the blockade began. When Jeremy Donaldson. Well, you know. Well, blistering hot, as I'm sure you all remember. And I were a bit wheezy.
你以为你在讲话吗？不，你根本没在播你那什么鬼东西。他以为在播他讲话吗？才没有嘞。
So I made a decision. And since that day, I have stopped smoking cigars. Except for Christmas. Weddings. State dinners. That's what I say. I can't excuse really backwards, does it? Got anywhere. And apparently I'm going on a walking holiday this Christmas, and that should finish me off for bloody good.
这真的很难控制哎。
To holiday within the country this winter because of the blockade, Prime Minister.
Well, Mrs. C has never liked travelling at the best of times. These are certainly not the best of times.
这真的不好
We can
控。
all agree. There's a lot of red tape involved in leaving the territory,
对对对。
as I'm sure you're all aware. Some of those farmers are bastard long. What? All in it together.
睡啦！他根本不知道我们做了什么事情。先进党爸爸。
And yet, Julia Salisbury announced today that she'll be visiting Svenland during this year's winter break. Is that really an example of team spirit?
What?
哦，又要动了。
About this, Gail?
No one tells me anything, Peter. You should know that. Well, leaving that for a moment, it says on this card that a body like yours must take some planning to achieve. What's your morning routine?
Well, I have a frigid.
Rigid. It's rigid for fuck's sake!
啊，反正播出去的不是你在讲话啦，根本不用怕，不用消音了，不用消音了。
Who's your personal trainer?
Ah, some prick called Clark. Is that on your car?
没事，妥妥的，根本不是在播你讲话，你在讲话有个无聊的。
Keeping this country reeling from its effects. What plans do you have to get us out of this mess?
Well, that's a very blunt question, Miss.
Surely one for which you, the democratically elected Prime Minister, must have an answer.
Don't you get smart with me, Pat.
哦，我好猛，我可以控2边呢。
Treasure before you were a twinkle in the milkman's scrotum. You want to talk about plans?
哇，这收视率爆表哎！我好棒，他一定觉得收视很好，但实质上是我在做别的事情。
Discuss the implementation of plans and yet more planning for fucking plans and yet more fucking plans.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, Prime
You
Minister.
know, I used to really like you, Pat. You were a breath of fresh air. I've been watching you, and you know what? You get more like him every day.
I will take that as a compliment. Prime Minister, later on this evening, your co-leader Julia Salisbury is going to give a national address.
对耶，茱莉亚好像都是代表首相去当发言人。
Yes. Well, I imagine that there
Sorry,
will be
you imagine?
the usual. No, what I mean is.
You do know about this broadcast, don't you, Prime Minister?
他一定不知道啊，喝呛了，有够呛。
And I have no secrets from each other.
呛
We don't
爆。
memorize each other's bloody diaries either. As my old man used to say, if you wanted to get a job done quick, don't get bogged down in the pubes. What else you got?
Sorry?
哦，这边就要消音
Any
了。
cards? What else? A little piece of my life you want to rustle through? Get out, refill my last. Get out, refill my last. Ah, come on.
What music do you listen to when you work out? What music do you listen to when you work out?
Well,
什么鬼东西呀？这时候问健身听啥是什么
but I
鬼？
have absolutely no fucking idea who that is. Do you think the C stands for?
It stands for collaborative, Prime Minister.
Yeah,
他根本就不知道他自己创的那个理念是什么，你知道吗？
How's rationing affect?
傻眼。
It's hard, but we get by. You just have to learn to get by on the basics. Take comfort in each other. I've got Mrs. C, and many a fine single malt. I want for nothing.
干嘛？他干嘛？
For a decent night's sleep, of course.
好哦。
Prime Minister, thank you for joining us. When we come back, it's time for the culture spot with Lil C and a world premiere performance of her new song. I genuinely can't
还要
wait
放
to
广
hear
告啊
that. We'll be back after this.
1 minute back, everybody.
这总统真的是傀儡，我觉得。
What happens when you wander from the car?
I don't think he knew about her statement.
I don't think anyone's supposed to know. When you mentioned it,
我又放了什么啊
face turned a colour like
围城生活用品套装，哇，很会卖哎！
Nah, you're like the daughter he never had.
这个时候卖那个
Don't buy him.
被围城时的用品套装，很赚哎。
Who's Lil C?
You winding me up?
What? I'm civilized. I read books.
哇 A 加哎，我好棒！
I concur absolutely, Brian. There's barely enough milk to undermine the tea.
超赞！
You'll no doubt have spotted the updated mixing disc. You'll need the new buttons during the next sections.
真的不一样了。
Pause when the guest enters and before her song. Don't worry, I'll walk you through it when we get there.
要加罐头音效了，耶！
Is certain a preferable way.
碎的。
And you'd be right. We've had our biggest and best brains working on this for months, and we've got you covered with the Remington Swiss Siege Survival Box. Inside every blockade-busting box, you'll find the things you really
围城生存礼盒，耶，好棒好棒！
taste the chemicals. Some rare meat we grew in our production laboratory. Chocolate so soft.
尝不出化学添加物的红酒，所以你到底是没有加啊？感觉是有加的，是不是啊？好哦，
I've never heard of her before.
Oh, she's big, really big.
She any good?
Nah, of course not.
他在干嘛啊？
My kids go
他
mad.
怎么还在漱那个？
Oh, Colin, you've got kids.
Yeah, I've got about 6 or 7, I think.
他还在戏，还没戏完，笑死！你到底要戏多久？
Thanks for coming back. Later, we have an exciting new feature that we just know you're going to love, so stay tuned for that.
我要
But
拍手。
first, I'm really excited for our next guest. She rose to prominence as the delightful Susie May in All My Daughter's Children's Men, before taking the music industry by storm this year
哦
with her
他可以
debut
提前
album
先按，我以为一定要按到那个
At
时
the
候。
age of just 20.
拍拍手
Let's give it up and welcome Lil C. May I just say, you look incredible.
Oh, thanks, babe. I'm doing this new regime and it really does work.
What's the regime?
And my manager suggested it to me.
啊，切磋拍摄。
Cabbage water and then having the leaves sucked out of you while you sleep.
Wow, is that healthy?
Oh, well, look at me, Meg. The leaves are my only nourishment.
Yep, they certainly are. Now, you'll have to forgive me, but I'm somewhat of a super fan, so I'm sorry if I get a bit starstruck.
Oh, bless you. I've never actually heard of you before, so if you do get a little tongue-tied, I can always carry the...
哇塞，让你 carry 全场，好，
So
我
your
等着。
first album, F My Face Together, it hit shelves this summer and it just exploded. I mean, what was that like for you?
Bonkers, just so weird. I was in all the papers and the magazines. Overnight, I went from that like annoying little girl from that show to that like sexy little girl from that show.
Wow, that must have been bizarre.
Not really, it was just like any other morning. You know, get up at 5, go on a 4-mile run, have 3 meetings on my cabbage bath, but then only then was my dad actually talking to me.
Oh, of course. I mean, the famed country singer, Billy Bob Jean Short. I didn't know you'd been estranged.
There's nothing that strange about it, Megan. Okay, yes, he may believe that aliens told him to hate women, but there really isn't anything to prove that he's wrong.
So, this newfound
okay.
popularity, I mean, did that change your life?
Well, I had to start wearing like nice underwear, you know, for the paparazzi. But as my manager says, best to make the most of it before I'm 30.
Is that right? So what's the album about?
So I thought it was about like how pretty and great I am, but actually it's about monetizing youth, I think, or about like promoting an unrealistic standard of beauty.
啦
Your manager again.
Yeah, he says insecurity is an opportunity.
Oh, do you think he'd be happy with you telling us all this?
Telling you all what? It really doesn't matter what I say. I'll do my dancing and then this part will all be spoken about.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
好，我们看你跳舞啊，来
we're
啊
going！ to see some of those famous dance moves very shortly because you're going to be performing your new single, aren't you?
Yeah, it's from my album Put It In My
Oh.
Head Together and it's out tomorrow.
不好意思啊，
So soon after the last one.
Oh yeah, I've actually released 2 albums since
我没有空理你啦，好不好？
line during this interview. See, this is called Cry for Help and it's going to be in all the best high street and retailer shops. Ow. Now, so girlies, you know what to do. Scream and cry until somebody gets it for you.
There she goes. Blimey. All these projects, they're keeping you very busy,
白
aren't
痴
they?
Yeah, it can get tough and I hate it sometimes and I hate myself. I just want to like cry into a bar.
没有人在意你的一起 C 的歌啊，好不好？大家只在意入侵新闻。
You know you don't have to do this, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do think that sometimes. Most nights between
我们
like
是
my
间
Facebook
谍
and a stranger slaps me around the arse. I think things could have been different, you know, like better. I don't know. I love doing autographs and having somebody dress me and tell me what to wear.
哦哟哦哟哦哟哦哟哦哟哦哟
Do you
哦哟，
always want to do music?
吓死！
Well, ever since I was a little girl, I did. I'd sit in front of the radio, and as soon as my favourite girl group would come on, I'd press record on my cassette. But then my dad would come in and tell me to turn it off and to go back upstairs and start practicing again.
Sorry, is your dad your manager?
Yeah, which can be tough. And sometimes when it gets really hard, he'll say, "Make Quagler proud, and you might just survive childbirth."
Well, you know what, despite anything, you'll make me proud.
Oh, if only your opinion was as valuable as his.
哦，
And on that problematic note, you're going to be singing your song for us soon, aren't you? Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So it's called These Babies Gonna
你
Bring
的
You
宝
Home.
贝会带你
And I
回
actually
家。
said the lyrics in the car on the way up here. You know what? It's actually alright. And don't worry, all my work is team approved.
All right
Okay.
then. Well, you can go and get ready for that. We'll see you in a little bit. It was a very specific
这个脸
pleasure
好尴尬
to
哦，
her, and I just can't wait to
尴
hear
尬到
this.
不行。
Oh, so here is Lil C with an exclusive
拍手
performance of her new track, These Babies Gonna Bring You Home. Take it away.
It's the Force's favorite, the Queen of Team, here to break in your blockade.
他唱出来没？哦，有了。
Lil C.
Oh baby, can't you see I'm hungry? There's a place in me that's empty.
我抓不到他的节奏。
That meet you back in only you can can feel that crack in me. I'm under siege, so come and free me. Ain't no disruption here.
找不到节奏。
No agenda, just want the team and me. No dirty foreign member. Don't stop no morning drill. There's holes in me that ain't been filled yet. I only scream this loud when you do your country part. I ain't no Vickers, but a common skirmish on my border.
我只有这一段才能抓到。
Get my shoulder, tie me down and pull me like an enemy soldier. An enemy
造什么啦？
So let them try and break our dream. We fight another riot. So wanna be a Clemens boy. Come and use me as a toy. I wanna see some action. So come and break my sanctions.
哎哎
I've been this wild and free since mama burdened me. She was only 53. but
我也觉得有点布兰妮的感觉。
There's no one judging me if I'm the one that's in your fantasy. Don't die alone, these babies gonna bring you home. I ain't no Vickers, but a common skirmish on my border. Creep before
有了有了
I get much older.
抓到节奏。